Evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hardcore Challenge Live. It is the Week 6 Game of the Week edition. Tonight we will reveal the Game of the Week, break it down, give our predictions, and we have a special guest scheduled for tonight as well. So, lots of action. Let's get right to it. Our Game of the Week edition. Give out the call-in number if anybody wants to call in. Have anything you need to say. Feel like you need to get off your chest, vent, what have you. Leave the lines open for probably the first 5 to 10 minutes of the show. We got an interview towards the end. So let's get to it. Our Week 6 Game of the Week is the biggest game of the week to date. We have the number 1 team in the power rankings going against the number 2 team in the power rankings. We have the number 1 scoring team in the league going against the number 2 scoring team in the league. This could be a big, big game. You got 5-0 Pale Horseman, who is sitting atop the Elite East, faces off against 4-1. I'm thinking RBs, who is sitting atop the Great White North. This is an interesting matchup and a possible playoff preview as two of the hottest teams in the league that are boasting a 5 and 4 game winning streak, respectively, face off. This is a real game of the week. This one's big. This game probably means more to RBs than it does Pale Horsemen. They're in a much tighter division race. They got Skull Crushers sitting right behind them, only 1 game back at 3-2. They're still looking like a hot team. But obviously, Pale Horseman has every intention of continuing their undefeated streak. Because, man, when you're 5-0 and you're the only undefeated team left, you want to keep that shit rolling. That doesn't happen all the time. Ask Pale Horseman. They've never made the playoffs, so they know what it's like. They're riding high right now and loving it. When looking at these two historically, you would have to obviously lean towards the league powerhouse and yearly playoff participant. I'm thinking RBs, but something just tells me that the tides may be turning this season in our league. There's lots of new blood fighting among the tops of the divisions, and things may be changing a little bit. Landscape's changing. So the first thing you have to look at, obviously, in this matchup is the quarterback position. Obviously, they're the captain of the team. They are the ones you want to score big. They set the tone for your fantasy week. You've got 2 of the best out there. Right now, you've got RBs with Tom Brady. Come back in his first game, pissed off at the world, and took it out on them. And planning on taking it out on the Bengals this week. So, and they're at home. Tom at home, a pissed off Tom, that's probably not good. But then on the other side, though, Pale Horseman, Matty Ice, Matt Ryan, the hottest quarterbacks in the league right now. But they are going to Seattle. So I give that advantage to RBs. I think Tom Brady at home, Matt Ryan on the road in Seattle, I think Brady's got the edge there. Now, when you look at the running back position, RB's running backs have been killing it. He's got LaShawn McCoy and David Johnson for the Cardinals. Both have been just freaking toting the rock like crazy. McCoy's getting touches all different kinds of ways. And those guys, I look to be big again this week. On the other side of the ball, you've got Mark Ingram and Isaiah Crowell for Pale Horsemen. Now, those guys have been doing pretty good. Obviously, they've helped carry Pale Horsemen to 5-0, but I just don't think they match up against McCoy and Johnson. Those guys have been killing it, and I think they kill it again this week. So I give the advantage of running backs to, I'm thinking, RBs. Now, at wide receiver, RBs has T.Y. Hilton and Brandon Cooks for the Saints, going against Pale Horseman with Michael Crabtree and Travis Benjamin. I got to give it to Crabtree and Benjamin with Pale Horseman. I think, again, they're going to have a big game. You've got the Raiders at home against Kansas City. I think Crabtree has a big game again. And Benjamin, even though the Chargers continue to find ways to lose, during the game, right up until they blow it at the end, Travis Benjamin's getting a ton of touches. So and they're getting that guy the ball all different ways. So I give the advantage at wide receiver to Pale Horseman. Now, tight end, Pale Horseman, like he said last time when he was on in the interview a couple weeks ago, Marcellus Bennett, he thought was going to be big when Tom Brady came back. I tell you what, man, he called that one because Tom Brady comes back, hits that guy for 3 touchdowns. Does he continue to throw to him? It's hard to tell. They've got Gronk, so they run a lot of 2 tight ends. They got them both out there, but his first week with Tom, he comes up with 3. I definitely give that the advantage over Zach Ertz for RBs, although Ertz is not a bad option at tight end either. Now, the flex position, they're both a little weak at flex. You've got Tevin Coleman for RBs against Jacob Tamme. A Falcon against a Falcon at the flex position. And I got to give it to Tamme. I don't think Coleman's going to get the carries. Freeman's toting the rock for the most part and getting the bulk of the carries for the Falcons. I just don't see Tevin Coleman getting a lot. Matt Ryan's throwing a lot, but, you've got the thing that just like Matty Ice, the Falcons are going to Seattle. And are they going to slow him down altogether and Tamme doesn't get jack either? That's probably the big question there. Now, next you got to look at the kicker. Now, kickers are a toss-up, but Pale Horseman's got Gronkowski. He's solid, and I take him over Santos with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to have a tough time in Oakland. Hey, call me biased, but it is what it is. I think they're going to have a tough time in Oakland. And, I just think they are. Now, defensively, Pale Horseman's got starting the Broncos defense at San Diego. I see the Broncos D getting some big plays. Probably get some splash plays. You got the Cardinals D going against the Jets for RBs. I'm going to give the advantage to Pale Horseman there. Now, in the individual defensive players, Derek Johnson for the linebacker for Kansas City, I see kind of standing out for me as on Pale Horseman's team. And I don't see a guy that really jumps out for me on RB's team out of his defensive starters, the individual guys. So, of course I'm biased, cheesehead. So, I call that one kind of a wash, the individual defensive players. So, with that being said, looking at the matchups, owner history, track record, I think this is a tough one to call. So before I make my prediction this week, we have another guest on the show joining us tonight. We have Mr. Will Wadland, owner of Pale Horseman, who is currently number 1 in the power rankings and sitting 5-0 in the Elite East. Will, thanks for joining us again. How are you doing this evening?
All right, thank you for having me on again.
Well, you are the top dog in the league, so I mean, you don't know, that train doesn't come around all the time, so you might as well ride it while it's here. So,
this is make it or break it this week.
Absolutely, I agree. So we spoke last. You were sitting at 3-0. Now you're 5-0. You're the only remaining undefeated team, and your whole division is 3 games behind you. How does that feel?
It's going to be a tough one.
Okay. So now you're coming off of your weakest performance so far this year. You only posted 125 last week.
Yeah,
it wasn't pretty, but a win is a win, and your streak continued. So are you looking to make any major changes coming into this big matchup with RBs, or you're just going to roll with what you rolled with last week?
I think I'm going to roll with who's there right now, who I have set up. I always think, like, hey, should I do this, or hey, should I do that? And I've played that game so many times the past couple seasons, and I don't really have a lot of options at this point, and there's nothing out there. And in order to pick somebody else up. You got to trade somebody good away, so that doesn't make sense. So right now what I'm doing is I'm playing with what I got, hoping for the best, and then I made a couple pickups because I know I'm weak coming up on week 11. So I'm going to make some future moves.
Looking ahead, smart. So, you're sitting 3 games ahead of your whole division, like I mentioned before, 5 weeks in. That's freaking unheard of. That's pretty impressive. So you've got Cheesehead, Oski Assassins, the 5-3 Bandits, and the Bison Broncos all are in a 4-way tie for second. If you had to pick one of those teams as the team who steps up and challenges you for a division title, who do you think is going to be the one team that challenges you? Or do you think you're just going to run away with it and none of them are going to challenge you?
Maybe 5-3 Bandits, because I think the last one he could have done better. I think one of the moves he made, I think one of the guys he had on his bench had like 30 points, if I remember right.
If I had to pick one, I would have said him too, because he's in the top 5 in scoring, even though he's 2 and 3.
Yeah.
He's putting up points. He's just not winning matchups. So I would have to agree with you if I had to pick one.
It was nice in the beginning when you'd know you had it by late Sunday, but then this weekend you're up to close to 11:30. Just making sure, it's close. I don't want to have that problem.
Oh, I stayed all the way up till the end of the Monday night game just to make sure Levante David didn't get some crazy late interception or something. Yeah. I wanted my first win. So,
yeah.
All right. So this week's matchup pits number 1 against number 2 in the power rankings, as well as number 1 and number 2 in the scoring against each other. This looks to be a pretty exciting matchup. Biggest game yet for the game of the week. What is your prediction for the outcome?
If I win, it's going to be less than 5 points.
Ooh, close one.
Yeah, it's going to be a squeaker. It's going to be tight. It's going to be fun though.
You think it's going to be high scoring or like a low scoring close game?
I'm thinking under 160.
Under 160.
Maybe like 155, 159. In that range.
All right.
Maybe a 4 or 5 point game in the high 150s.
All right. Well, we'll see. All righty. So, lastly, is there anything you would like to say to your opponent, Tom, owner of I'm Thinking RBs, before your big showdown this weekend?
Drop the ball.
Right on. There you have it. We got the biggest game of the season this weekend. Will, owner, Pale Horseman, taking on Tom. I'm Thinking RBs, one of our perennial powerhouses. Has the tide shifted in the power atop the hardcore challenge? So Will going to take down Tom? Will says he's going to in a tight matchup. But I am not going with him. I am picking Tom, and I'm Thinking RBs to win the game of the week. I just cannot pick against Tom. Tom always freaking wins when it counts. He just does. I don't know why, but he does. So I'm picking Tom to win the game of the week. I think it's going to be by more than 20 points. I think he wins in a big way. I don't know why, but I think the streak ends for Pale Horsemen this week. They go to 5-1. They're still probably going to be carried a 2-game lead, and they'll be going on. But they've got some tough matchups coming up. I've looked down their schedule. They've got some tough matchups coming up. But I'm sitting 4-1 in my predictions for game of the week. Going with I'm Thinking RBs this week. So, you heard it. Pale Horseman, owner, Will, says he's going to win in a close matchup. Predicting around a 160 game. We'll see if he's right. I'm Thinking RBs. Man, how can you pick against a team that never misses the playoff every freaking year? They haven't missed the playoffs since they joined the league in 2010. They're always at the top. So, remember guys, all trades need 48 hours approval time from the minute they post, no exceptions. Trade deadline is just 4 weeks away, November 11th. You better start thinking, if you think you're going to the playoffs or you got a shot, you better start making a move, man. You got to make a move for the playoffs. Things change midstream. Better be ready. Week 6 is here. You ready for the challenge? Good luck. Game on.